On this week's episode of the WNP podcast, is Bijan Robinson a top 10 pick? Stay tuned. Episode 164 of the We're Not Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how are you on this lovely Monday evening?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking. Bit weird recording on a Monday. I feel like this is something we've probably never done, is recording on a Monday. It's a little strange, but I'm excited because it's going to be a fun sode. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic, and I think you're spot on there because we've got Bolts broadcast episodes that release on Mondays. So recording on a Monday, I mean, unless it's like midnight, the very early morning of Monday, definitely no shot. We've recorded like this before.
Sorry about that. Double click my mute button because clear my throat. But yeah, it's really strange because we're gonna have this release on the Tuesday, and I don't know if we ever had anything released on a Tuesday. So it's just a bit out of the ordinary, but nonetheless, it's always great when we get to talk 2023 draft prospects, no matter which sport it might be. So I'm very excited.
It's gonna be a great episode. We're gonna be talking about the running back position for the 2023 NFL draft class, and potentially, I think a very high chance this is the deepest position group in this draft class. There's a couple others that I think are going to be really exciting to look at down the line. Trust me, it won't be next episode. Wide receiver class looking a little weak as of right now, but Chase and I will dig into that next week, so be prepared for that. But before we get into our draft discussion, we do want to talk about some news around the league real quick. We'll start off with Carson Wentz as he gets cut from the Commanders. Carson Wentz, former second overall pick. The guy was an MVP caliber quarterback going into the playoffs in which they won the Super Bowl. However, an injury late in that season cut that short for him, and ever since, he hasn't really looked the same. He's been very turnover prone. He's been very injury prone, and this is a guy who is now on the outside yet again looking to find another job.
Yeah, it's really unsurprising based on the production he's given the last couple of years. It sucks, though, because Carson Wentz, when he was doing well, was a lot of fun to root for. I think he's kind of on the path where if he wants to, he can kind of be more of a mentor type of quarterback in a quarterback room, someone that won't really play much, but maybe could go to a couple teams over a couple of years, just bring in the pro mentality and then be done. Or maybe there's a chance he holds out for a starting job, and I don't think anyone would give him that, and maybe he's done playing football. I don't know. I would really expect that he continues even in a backup role, but nonetheless, it was just a tough go for Carson Wentz. It would have been nice to see him work out a little more than he did, but it's Sam Howell time, baby.
Yeah, I think he still finds his way onto a roster. To be a starter, that's going to be extremely questionable. We've talked about how there's 4 guys in this draft class that can really be true starters, within a year of them being drafted. Then there's a couple other guys that could potentially be starters, maybe not have the highest ceiling. But, I mean, we know there's a quarterback problem in the NFL, but part of that problem is Carson Wentz. So not sure he sees a starting role ever again. Chase, I did see a Will Levis comparison, his floor being Carson Wentz, his ceiling being Matt Stafford. What do you think about that?
I think that might be fair because I think he's going to be given at least a few opportunities to start. Even if it doesn't work out with his first team, it'd have to be like just an absolute monstrosity for him not to get another chance to start, I think. So Carson Wentz type of crew would be fair, where he can have a good stretch and maybe gets derailed or slows back down. And Matt Stafford, maybe that is the case. I think Matt Stafford's one of the better quarterbacks in the history of the league, so maybe Will Levis will not ever reach that. It seems like it's lofty, but it is possible. Very similar arm strength, very similar when it comes to the actual passing game itself. And it really, I guess, Levis, just if he develops more consistency, then I could see that.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see him throw this weekend.
Yeah. Are you going?
I am going. I am going to the NFL Draft Combine down here in Indianapolis. My dad and I both got passes, so he's coming down Saturday morning. We're going to go Saturday for the quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and then I'm not sure what time he's leaving Sunday, but I am hoping that I'm going to be able to stop in and see the running backs as well on Sunday. So excited to go. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. If I had a way to make it work this weekend, I'd love to just drive down there and go as well. But unfortunately, I cannot. It's something I've always wanted to do is go to the combine. But unfortunately, my line of work, it's just the timing doesn't never work out.
I think I'm going to go in, rock some khakis, a polo, bring my own stopwatch, a little journal with a pen, really look official. And then, hey, if I run into Dan Campbell or Zach Taylor or, any coach at the combine, just introduce myself. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, you know what? Here's a great idea.
No.
Listen, a great idea here. Go to the store. I don't know where you can find one down in Indy, but get either a Bengals polo, just logo on it, nothing crazy. Maybe go find a Lions one, whatever the hell team you want to work for. Go buy a bunch of teams, whichever one you decide on that day. Wear it in there. Find whoever the coach might be, and just be like, hey Zach, good to see you again. So here's the kind of the list I have, blah blah, and he's just gonna think you're a scout, and then it's like, I don't remember if you have my number or not, so here's this, and all of a sudden you're an NFL scout.
Okay, here's the one problem with doing it with the Bengals is they only have 4 scouts in their whole organization.
Well, now they have 5.
So maybe I do go with the Lions polo.
I think this is foolproof. Like I don't Honestly, know why you wouldn't do it.
You make a good point, and Dan Campbell's going to be so hopped up on his caffeine that he's not even going to see my face. It's just going to be blurred with just rage and energy and just everything that he loves, kneecaps, like he's all over it. So he's just going to see me and think I'm just one of the guys.
You just got to tell him, man, it really did start with Sheila and you're in.
Starts with Sheila, man. We need to get a Cam soundbite so that we can put that on the show.
Dude, we do. That's a great idea.
All right. Well, I guess we'll stick with Combine real quick. Just talking about when it starts, when you can see certain players play. Thursday, you'll be able to see the defensive linemen and the linebackers. Friday, you're going to get the D-backs as well as your special teamers, which I know everyone obsessed with those special teamers. Saturday will be the quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. Sunday, the running backs and the offensive linemen. I think the one bummer up to this point yet, Zach Evans, he's got a tweak in his knee, I think it is, so he won't be performing. Bryce Young also won't be performing. And then there was one more player that had something wrong with their back. I can't remember who it was now, but they won't be performing either.
I can't remember either. I did see that, but I don't remember who it was.
I do. Maybe, is it Will Levis? No. He's playing.
I don't know. Continue talking. I'll look for it.
I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to see Will Levis, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson all throw this weekend. So I'm super excited for that. I think we know the arm talent of Will Levis and Anthony Richardson when you just watch tape alone. So to see it in person is going to be really cool. Really hoping to see Anthony Richardson line up for that 40-yard dash. Obviously, a lot of super mobile quarterbacks as of recent haven't gone for the 40-yard dash because if you get a bad time, it's going to hurt you. If you get a good time, it's going to be expected. And if you don't go at all, then, nothing bad can happen. So interested to see there as well. But it's going to be a good time. Unfortunate that Zach Evans won't be there. I'm sure we're going to at least talk about him a little bit, even if he's not a top 10 running back for us. We're going to probably mention his name at least slightly. So it's going to be a really good time. Looking forward to it. And I think the quarterbacks, just seeing how big those arms are going to be fun.
So which names did you say when you said Zach Evans? Did you say Tyree Wilson?
I did not say Tyree Wilson.
So Tyree Wilson's one. Did you say Dalton Kincaid? I can't remember.
Dalton Kincaid was the guy with the back, wasn't he?
Yeah, so Dalton Kincaid with back. Tyree Williams had wasn't it a significant knee or ankle injury? I can't remember exactly. But yeah, so that sucks for Tyree Wilson, someone who really had a good opportunity to kind of shoot himself up draftwards even more than he is. Could have been someone who's pushing for that top 8 spot, but this injury might kind of push him down a little bit. I'm trying to get the exact injury. I don't remember what it was. If you want to continue talking, go for it.
Yeah, I think I've seen Tyree Wilson in the top 10 of so many mocks as of recent. Going to be interesting to see how it plays out with his, fellow classmates kind of showing up to the combine. And if there's any guys out there that just have extreme athleticism and impress, kind of like Walker did last year, then, we could see Tyree Wilson slip down the board because of the injury.
I do apologize. That was a very misleading headline. He said he gets huge injury before combine, but then you click on the article, it says huge injury update, and it was from his injury in November, so he's good to go.
Oh, okay. So whatever source it is clickbait. Get him out of here.
Yeah, that was a shame. That's on me. I will strive to be better next time.
Yeah, be better, Chase. All right, last thing before we hop into our running back discussion, the Bears. They're leaning towards trading the first overall pick. They've already gotten a couple of offers come through. There is talk, there's been talk, there will continue to be talk that do they stick with Justin Fields, trade down, get as many assets as you possibly can, or do you trade Justin Fields, go out and get a Bryce Young, go out and get any of these other quarterbacks that the Bears front office might love? Now it seems like they're leaning a little bit more towards keeping Justin Fields in Chicago, loading up, putting pieces around him.
So if there was a Trevor Lawrence, type of player, or maybe even what Caleb Williams is looking like, if there was that guy who was just bona fide number one, like an Andrew Luck, we'll even say, I'd say, you know what, I'll let you trade away Justin Fields for that. But really, I think Bryce Young's got a very good shot to be a very good NFL quarterback. I talked about that in our quarterback ranking. But Justin Fields, I think, has similar upside. So why would you move on from a guy that shown similar upside unless you're getting a bona fide proven upgrade? So I'm happy they're doing that.
You think that Fields and Bryce Young's upside is right there, neck and neck?
I don't know if they're right next to it, but it's a similar type thing where I think both of them can be top end quarterbacks in the league.
Okay, interesting. I've always been on the keep Fields side, and I'm glad that you've come out and said that, because we've had a lot of discussions in our Twitter group chat on what should the Bears do. Should they keep Fields? Should they move on? And it seems like I was the only one battling for Fields to stay. So to hear you say, it just keep Fields, it makes me happy a little bit, because now I got someone on my side. But
yeah, I wasn't going to bother battling in that, because you guys were typing so fast. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get any insight in on what I have to say until the next point of them moved on. So I'll just let them figure it out.
There you go. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because could there be a potential where we see the Bears trade out of the first overall pick, and the first overall pick still ends up being the likes of Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter, a very talented player, a lot of hype as of recent. I think that at the combine, he's going to look fantastic. I think, now I wouldn't put money on it, but I don't think that this is just guaranteed quarterback with whoever may be trying to trade up right now. I think that it's likely, but could we see a team trade up just to get Jalen Carter? I think it's possible.
It's definitely possible, because I can't imagine the Texans wanted to trade back, and the Cardinals, who sit at 3, they might not want to trade back either. So whatever team's I just want to make sure I get Jalen Carter. I want to make sure I get Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. They're my guys. So that's where it's very well possible. But I still say it's probably 75-25 leading quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. It's much more likely for that quarterback position. We know how important it is in the NFL. But Chase, now is the time. We're going to hop into our 2023 NFL Draft running back rankings. We usually do top 8. Last year we did top 8. The year before we did top 8. This year we're doing top 10, because this class is a little bit deeper than usual. And Chase, I say we just talk about the last 3 as well, because both Chase and I have 13 running backs with either day 1 or day 2 grades, which is insane.
Yeah, it really is, dude. It's super exciting. I can't wait to talk about this. I'm so ready.
Such a good class. Well, Chase, we'll start with your top 10. Go ahead, just list them on down, and then we'll get into the analysis after both of our lists are read.
Number 1, this might be shocking, but I do have Bijan Robinson out of Texas.
What?
I know. I'm sorry. Number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Now, here's where things do get interesting. Number 3, I have Roschon Johnson out of Texas.
Ooh.
Number 4, Yeah, Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State. Number 5, Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA. Number 6, Tank Bigsby out of Auburn. Number 7, Chris Rodriguez out of Kentucky. Number 8, Zach Evans out of TCU. Number 9, Tyjae Spears out of Tulane. And number 10, Sean Tucker out of Syracuse.
Wow, we do not have the same top 10 whatsoever.
Oh,
Do you want to make any guess? I talked about how, there's a couple of situations in my list, and you were trying to make guesses a couple of nights ago. Do you want to make any guesses on, like, who's the one guy that I think you love that I didn't think I was going to love but still made it? One of the guys that I just really was not sold on? Any of that?
Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce Vaughn for what, 1 or 2?
1.
Okay.
And then for 2, I'm going to go with Tank Bigsby.
Okay. So my list is Bijan Robinson, 1, obviously. Jahmyr Gibbs, number 2. Pretty obvious there as well. I think the top 2 guys are pretty consensus at this point. Now, number 3, I thought for the longest time was going to be Zach Evans. Not the case. It is actually Kendre Miller out of TCU. Zach Evans comes in at 4 out of Ole Miss. Zach Charbonnet, number 5 out of UCLA. Tyjae Spears out of Tulane is number 6. Roschon Johnson out of Texas, 7. Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State, number 8. Israel Abanikanda out of Pittsburgh is number 9. And number 10, Tank Bigsby out of Auburn. The guy I wasn't sold on that I thought I might be was Sean Tucker, who sits 12th for me.
Yeah, Sean Tucker is pretty close to my next guy who's like sitting at number 11. I just slightly lean Sean Tucker. So when the time comes, unless you want to mention him now, our other 3, which I don't know if you want to see if we're on the show now, whatever, doesn't matter. But the next guy, he was pretty close. So it was kind of one or the other, and I went the 1.
We can save the 3 for after. I do want to talk really quickly. I told you that I had 3 guys in the middle that were super close to each other. That being number 4, Zach Evans, number 5, Zach Charbonnet, number 6, Tyjae Spears. You got a 5.65 for Evans, a 5.625 for Charbonnet, and a 5.575 for Spears. So they're all within 1 decimal point basically.
So mine's out of a 1 scale, so it's a 3 decimal, kind of like a hockey save percentage.
Yep.
So like for example, Bijan's a .960 for me, just for reference. And then I can explain what that means when the time comes. But my 3, 4, and 5 with Roschon, Deuce Vaughn, and Zach Charbonnet are all within 4 thousandths of a point of each other.
Okay. Now quickly, I do want to see what of your 10 guys, what of those 10 are in the first round and then in the second round, and then obviously we can assume the others would be in the third round, or do you go strictly like day 2?
I go strictly day 2 unless it's someone who barely misses the cut, or barely makes the cut. So my 2 bona fide first rounders are Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of talent, and then my the early day 2 guys would be Roschon and Deuce pure talent wise, but I understand why he won't go there. And then guys that just barely made the cut on the other side included, there are 3 guys that haven't talked about, and Sean Tucker was a bit close to that as well.
Bijan Robinson is the only running back that I have going in the first round. Although Jahmyr Gibbs, with the grade that he has, he'd be like pick 34. So
so you could rationalize it being late first.
Yeah, he could find his way in there easily. And then I've got Kendre Miller, Zach Evans, Zach Charbonnet, and Tyjae Spears, all second rounders, and then Roschon, Deuce, Israel, and Tank, as well as the other 3 as third rounders. So it's a really good class, 13 deep for the both of us. But let's just start. Bijan Robinson, he's the consensus number 1, I think, for most people. And I think if someone is coming out saying Bijan Robinson isn't the number 1, they're just trying to get clicks because it's pretty obvious from film. Like, my grade for Bijan Robinson is a whole number, not a whole decimal point, a whole number higher than Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is pretty widely known as the consensus number 2.
Yeah, and it's basically the same thing for me. So where I have Bijan Robinson is a top 10 value, whereas I have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked as a like 5 through 32 type pick based on his numbers. So Bijan is safely there. Jameer Gibbs is lower, and I would be fine if Jameer Gibbs slips out of the first round. It would make sense. So Bijan, I would consider taking at almost any draft slot if a team is able to trade up, and that's the one piece they need. So just kind of go up with my insight on Bijan. It's basically what I wrote. The ideal NFL all-purpose back, good speed is his only downfall, as everything else is damn near elite. Cuts well, breaks tackles at a ridiculous rate, can pass block, makes wide receiver level catches. He's the one running back who is truly worth of that top round capital, like I said.
Yeah, I put not perfect, but near perfect. I absolutely love this kid. It felt like anytime I was watching his tape, you could see him go into a pile, and you're like, this dude's going to break out of that pile, isn't he? And then there he was, on the other side of the pile, running into the end zone. This guy could break anything. The speed, like you said, it's good. It's not elite. It's not Devon A-Chain level speed, but this is still a guy who can post 60-yard touchdowns. I've got no doubt in that. This guy's just so talented all around. My lowest grade for him was speed, and it was still, I think it was like 6th in the class, which is still exceptional.
Yeah, like my speed, so I have him, I don't have the exact rating, but it looks like I have him at about a similar rate. And it's not that he's slow, because he can definitely move. I think he's going to run in the 4.4s, and who knows, maybe he even surprises a little bit. But the beauty with him is he's got that very quick get off. So even if he has the tendency to get caught from behind, which he might, especially in the NFL with the way DBs are kind of changing, becoming more speed related guys, he has enough of that initial speed, that acceleration, where it's going to cause guys to just delay a little bit, and he still will have the opportunity to break off those big runs.
Yeah, he can literally do it all. He is phenomenal when it comes to the passing game, pass protection. He can do that. If he needs to run you over, he'll do that. If he needs to juke you out of your hand or out of your jock strap, there we go, he'll do that as well.
Out of your hands.
I was going to say out of your hamstring. But either way, Bijan Robinson is going to get it done, and I'm so happy I've got the first overall pick in our Dynasty League. I've got the first 12 overall picks, but so excited to get Bijan Robinson in there.
Yeah, I've got him coming into 2 of my Dynasty Leagues, so I'm also excited.
Such a good time. All right, Jahmyr Gibbs, number 2. He's the consensus number 2 for the two of us. Pretty widely consensus as well. What did you like about him?
It's his pass catching, promise, or is that the promise? I don't even know that's the word I'm looking for. But regardless, his building the pass catching game, like that's what it kind of boils down to. It's kind of like a CMC type of prospect when he was coming out, where he's such an elite pass catcher. He's a very quality, capable runner as well. He's not like super built, but he's also not afraid of contact. He'll drop a shoulder. He'll try to, power through. It's not always going to happen at the NFL level, but he's willing to do it. So as long as he can hold up, that'll be nice to have. As I mentioned, he's a great pass catcher back, runs routes well, shifty and speedy, and he surprised me in the pass blocking game from the route I was able to find. Honestly, I thought he was going to be, maybe a little underwhelming because he didn't take a ton of them because he's usually out in routes. But when he did have to do it, he did a good job. So I think he's got a very easy role being an all-purpose back for an NFL team. But if not, he will be the best receiving back in the league.
Yeah, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely a 3-down back, and I don't want to put a comparison on him, but when it comes to his ability within the run game and pass game, I think you can look at the likes of Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. These are guys that are more known for their ability out of the backfield, but they absolutely can get it done running between tackles, running outside of tackles. That's exactly what I think Jahmyr Gibbs can do as well. He's a little bit small when you look at like weight-wise. Right now, he's listed at 5'11", 200. I'm guessing he might weigh even a little less when it comes to the combine. But it's a guy who's just so shifty. He knows how to control his speed dial at an unreal level. You'll see him pick it up, really get some burst, and then slow it down to make a man miss, and then pick it right back up. The control that he has is next level. So also, just one hell of a back. Could have been first round. Could still be first round, obviously. And I think that he's going to be a day in, day out contributor.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault the team for spending a first round pick on him as I have him graded. But also at the same time, even though I haven't graded that way, I got a feeling the way my ranking is going to work out all said and done, I will still probably have like 30 guys out of him.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk about your number 3. I think the most surprising running back that we've seen, or at least the most surprising ranking, that being Roschon Johnson out of Texas. Why is he number 3?
Dude, I might be like the highest player on Roschon Johnson the highest person on Roschon Johnson that I've seen. I'm all in. I think almost anywhere in the country, he would have been their starting all-purpose back, just because he can do everything. Like if Bijan weren't there, he'd have the first down reps. He'd be in the passing game. He'd be more in the run blocking game than he already is. He's just that dude. If he was my generational talent, as I mentioned, he would be that guy. Sorry, I'm just reading through my notes at this point. That was just going rambling, but he's very high end, well-rounded game for me. He's got speed. He can cut. Is very patient behind the line. He breaks tackles. He can catch the ball. He engages and blocks. It might not be an elite blocker, but he's willing to engage and throw guys off enough where it'll help kind of gain that extra yardage if you have a two-back system out there. The build's going to help him withstand the NFL physicality, which is nice because he's 6'2", 220 plus pounds. It makes it a bit easier to hold on to that strength compared to some of the skinnier guys, and he can kind of take a little more of a beating. And on top of that, with his limited college reps, he's looked dominant on almost every game he's played in. He's looked very strong, and he's going to be nice and fresh going into the NFL. So really, it all just depends on, can he handle, all this work? If he gets that opportunity, can he hold up, which I think he can. That's really all the only questions for me because we haven't seen it. But I think he's got the making to be one of the best running backs in the league.
Hey, I like Roschon Johnson a lot too. I have him just out of the second round. He's similar to Jahmyr Gibbs, where he's right on that brink between second and third round. The grade says third round, but if he goes second round, no fault there whatsoever. I think he's super talented. I think the only reason I don't have him higher than some of these other guys that we'll talk about here soon is I just felt like these other guys had a specific trait, a specific ability where they just excelled and were like top level type of players, where I feel like Roschon Johnson, more of an all-round back that might not specialize in something specifically, but is really solid across the board. And the one thing that you said that I love about this guy is his pass protection. It might not be perfect, but he embraces it. He embraces the contact with the defensive lineman, with the corner, with the linebacker. Whoever's coming in, he is going to try his damnedest to do a great job in pass protection. I was also a little bit surprised with how shifty he was. This is a guy that obviously, with his size, you would think a lot more physical than shifty. He had both.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited, because the right opportunity. Yeah, I don't know that might just let's say the Dolphins go in on defense and Roschon's not going to get picked as the third running back off the board. I'm already aware of that. But if he goes to the Dolphins, that's a team that really needs a running back. Oh man, am I spending high rookie draft capital on this kid? Because that's just opportunity just to be that number one. I think he would run away with it.
Yeah, he's really talented. Now, here's the question, Chase. Do we want to move into my number 3, who's not even in your top 10, or shall we talk about guys that we both have in our top 10 for a little bit longer, and then once it gets to the point where we're starting to talk 7, 8, we'll get back into my number 3?
No, let's go to your number 3. Let's try to keep it as 1 through 10 as possible.
All right. My number 3, Kendre Miller out of TCU. Absolutely love this kid. And Chase, this is the guy where I said, I'm going to absolutely rip you if he's not in your top 10. Sure enough, he is not. I don't know if you watched his tape. You might not have, because he forced a missed tackle on 90% of his runs. You just don't see that out of anyone except for the likes of Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. The patience that he showed was unreal. And I look at him very similar to Zach Charbonnet, which we both have as our number 5, and we both like a lot, except the difference between Kendre Miller and Zach Charbonnet, in my eyes, I think similar across the board, but Zach Charbonnet, you see, right when he gets the ball, he wants to burst. He wants to hit that hole. He wants to find, something. Whereas Kendre Miller, he's a little bit slower when it comes to actually breaking through the line. He's a lot more patient, but once you see him find that hole, he's got the burst to go through it. And I think that he's not the fastest guy, but he's fast enough to have a 50-yard plus run touchdown, which we can't say about the likes of Zach Charbonnet or Tank Bigsby. These are guys who are also maybe not the fastest, but Kendre Miller, he's got that long touchdown over the top of him, so we can't say he's much worse than these guys are when it comes to speed. I think the patience is awesome. The way he breaks tackles, fantastic. He's a willing blocker. And then when it comes to his work in the receiving game, I think it's very similar to Kenneth Walker as of last year, where he wasn't asked to do a lot in the receiving game. And so I think a lot of people would bash him for that, but that by no means that he can't catch a ball. We've seen it done, and I just think this guy is fantastic. You look at the physique, you look at his size, everything about him, I'm a huge fan.
So I think I mentioned already in the show, I do a 1 through 6 or a 0 through 6 scale technically in case for whatever reason you have a 0 on something, which nobody really ever does. But his size, like measurable scale, is a 6 for me because it's a great build for like running back that you want in the NFL. And when it comes to what you mentioned with speed, I disagree on the Charbonnet thing. I think that Charbonnet is at least equal, if not a little bit better in it. I think you're going to see it more at the combine at the NFL level. The systems he ran in wasn't necessarily designed for him to be able to just run full speed. It was just he played a little more bruising role, which he can do just fine, and like he's got that size. But I'll save that for when we talk to Charbonnet. For Kendre Miller, I don't know. I think he's going to be a great committee back. Would even be good in an AJ Dillon type role where he's the 1B to a very good 1A and could be very useful. But I just don't see really it being at an elite level. I don't know. It looked good. It looked NFL level. I just don't know though. If a team takes him in day 2, then I've got no problem because that means the team will really give him an opportunity. And right now I have him right on the edge of into day 2 and day 3. So if I saw him more of like a bigger potential, bigger room to grow type guy, then I would have him up there. But just because I think he's going to get better, but maybe not a ton better, he'll just kind of be the 1B role. I'd rather take a chance on a couple guys I have above him who I think still have more upside.
So Kendre Miller for me is your Roschon Johnson. This is the guy that I am rooting absolutely the hardest for. Obviously, I'm taking Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs over this guy. But if there's one guy I want to see prove people wrong, and I think there is some doubters because he's only done it 1 year. TCU, they have this miracle season. I just want him to have so much success, and I'm super excited for it. And now when I said the thing about Zach Charbonnet and the speed, I have them at similar speeds, actually the same exact speed rating on my scale. I just think that both of these guys, now I will say Charbonnet shows a little bit more burst, but like I said, I think Kendre Miller's more the patient game, going to make someone miss and then go. I think that both of these guys, when you look at their lawn speed, I don't think either of them are really that level. I've got both of them as slower than Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, that's fair. So do I.
All right. So number 4 now. Your number 4 is Deuce. Is that right?
My number 4 is Deuce Vaughn.
All right.
It is. I'm God. Talk about a darling for me. So I know the size is going to be a big detriment to his draft capital and to what people think of him. But the production does not lie, because it was just incredible. Like, best running back production in the nation over his college career. Like, he was putting up 1,800 yards, like 20 plus all-purpose touchdowns. Like, he was just doing everything. He was the reason, that K-State kind of had like any chance of winning football games, because he was just absolutely incredible. He's got good speed, and for his size, it's harder. He's got to keep his legs churning rather than getting more of a push off. So maybe that's a problem, but I think he does have good speed. He's got great agility. Despite his size, I think he has awesome strength. You would hope you see guys be like 200 plus pounds as a running back, but what he do is, like, his height compared to weight, he's still built pretty similar to the other guys, just a lot smaller. So he's willing and does get physical with the running game, and he's able to truck guys over. Like he's done it in college. I think he's an awesome pass catcher as well. He surprised the hell out of me in the pass block games. I've always just seen the clips of him making big plays and watching K-State games where he like makes those types of plays. But when I did see him in the pass blocking game, like he held up well. He held up edge rushers, he held up defensive backs. Like he did significantly better than I expected. And as I mentioned, the high end college production. I think that somebody should give him an opportunity to be a number one. Maybe don't give him 300 touches a year, but if you can get him like 240 a year and then have like a good spell back, so like get him like a 70-30% share, I think he would be like the anomaly. Like how Kyle Pitts is the unicorn for tight ends based on his incredible measurables. Deuce Vaughn's, a unicorn just in a different way.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have similar thoughts on Deuce Vaughn. I don't have him as high as you do. I don't think that he can be that number one, true workhorse back. That you think, there could be that potential. I don't necessarily have him there, but I mean, the guy's got that dog in him. I literally put in my notes, has that dog, loves to be physical, even though his frame doesn't necessarily lend him any help with the physical aspect of the game. Super dangerous in the passing game. I think that this guy is going to be the premier pass catching back. And while I was doing my grading, I was thinking, man, where could Deuce Vaughn go? Have a nice timeshare where both of these guys are utilized super heavily. Looking at, something like an A.J. Dillon or something. And then I thought, what a perfect spot to go join the second-year player in Dameon Pierce. A little thunder, a little lightning down in Houston. I think that would be so much fun because Dameon Pierce has shown a lot of promise in his rookie year. However, I don't think most people see him as that true 3-down back. So bring in Deuce Vaughn, have them split 50-50. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's a great idea. Give them both 50-50%, like snap share. Maybe give what's his nuts at this point, Dameon Pierce more rushing attempts, but just pepper Deuce with the pass catching role, like put him in the screen game. And I think we see two guys that could both have 1,100 plus all-purpose yards. Like legitimately, that would be one of the best running back duos in the league because they're so opposite. And if you put them both on the field at the same time, teams would be like, all right, what the hell are they doing? And you could really throw off some defenses. So I think that's a great idea, Mike.
And imagine with their second overall pick, they get a Bryce Young, or let's just say he goes one. Maybe they go Anthony Richardson. You have a little read option with the two backs and the quarterback. Oh, that could be a fun offense.
Yeah, dude, bring the triple option to the NFL. Like even if it's not a full on like what we saw in Georgia Tech for all those years, but bring it on as something that they would do in 20-30% of their plays because it would be effective if they had Anthony Richardson and these two. That would be incredibly effective. I still want them to get Bryce Young, the Texans, that is, because I think that's a really good fit. But if he does go one, they can't get up there. I would love for them to take a shot on Anthony Richardson instead of the others. That would be perfect, especially if they went out and got a guy like Deuce Vaughn.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's now talk about my number 4, that being Zach Evans. Can you remind me where you had Zach Evans? He was in your top 10, right?
Yes, he was. He was my number 8.
Okay. So Zach Evans, he was a guy that I had a lot of hope for coming out of high school. However, he had a lot of immaturity.
By the way, I want to reel it back. I just remembered I said Zach Evans out of TCU. I kind of forgot him at Ole Miss.
Nice. But Zach Evans coming out of high school, he had a lot of immaturity. He was committed to Georgia at one point. That obviously fell through. He went over to TCU, left TCU on a bad note. Then he goes over to Ole Miss, and he doesn't even get the full starting role. Now, is it Quinshon Judkins?
Quinshon Judkins, dude. Oh, man. Talk about my favorite Devy player. Oh, man, I love his game.
Judkins was absolutely fantastic, but a 3-star running back, not necessarily someone you would think would dethrone Zach Evans, but again, he played at an unreal level. I still worry about Zach Evans and his immaturity. It's a real issue. I am worried that there could be a situation where he goes to a team, he, tries hard, but he gets beat out, and then he's just one of those guys that's like, all right, I want to request a trade, and just nothing works out for him. So that's a real worry for me. But when you look at the player himself, I think he's so talented. He is fantastic when it comes to speed, agility. Even though he's not seen as, a typical power guy at 6 foot 215, he can put his shoulder down. He can break some tackles with his physicality. I think the catching is super underrated on this guy as well. Pass block, I think he could, use some improvement there. But I think all around, this is a guy who can be your day in, day out, 3-down running back. The biggest issue for me right now is not the actual game. It's the mental side of the game.
And I think that is fair. There's fair questions to be had, and I agree with a lot of those. I still, I have his talent as a day two back, as we mentioned, because I think all the talent is there. I think the speed, the agility, the strength, the breaking tackle, the elusiveness, I think that's all there. I just, I do question the immaturity a bit. I question a little bit pass blocking, and I question him in the receiving game as well. So I don't know if he's, that all-purpose back, that kind of dude. But I do think that he has a ton of talent. He's a very quick runner. It really just kind of what it comes down to is that immaturity, and the upside does question me a little bit. And here's this: Bijan Dawkins had a great freshman campaign. He had a hell of a breakout. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's someone who's going to be a very good NFL back down the road. Still got to wait for at least 2 more years of college football, but I think he's got that in him. Regardless, it is concerning that you keep in mind part of Zach Evans moving to Ole Miss was that he was told by recruiters he would not be used as a workhorse. They would keep him healthy, send him to the NFL, but they would still give him use and make him kind of their running back one. And by the end of the year, Bijan Judkins was clear and above their number one running back. He was the better of the two players, and it's more credit to Judkins for stepping up. At the same time, Evans, the fact that he lost that role, it's also a little worrisome. So I do have questions if he can handle the maturity. If he doesn't get that, starting role right away, what might happen? I agree. So I would mitigate risk and keep him lower in my rankings and spend, a 3rd round pick on him instead of a 2nd.
Yeah. A lot of his grades for me are pretty high, but when you look at his notes, it's almost all negative. I wrote so talented, can do it all, but immaturity is a real issue. He also got beat out as the starter on 2 different teams. It worries me. And it's hard to I'm rooting for the guy, but I'm really worried that there could be that situation where he gets beat out and he's done. He loses it. He does not have that confidence. He doesn't have that drive to be that guy. So that worries me a bit, but hey, I'm rooting for him. I hope everything works out.
Me too. I'm at the end of the day, I'm a very pro player type of guy. We're a very pro player podcast, especially when it comes to the NFL, because it's such a short career you have in this profession. So we're always gonna be rooting for guys unless they really give us a reason not to root for them.
Yeah, and Derek Carr, he's coming to Indianapolis, not as the quarterback.
Yeah, but I did see that
coming out to the combine. Maybe I'll hit him up. Just be like, "What up, DC? How you doing, brother?" And hang out for the whole weekend. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be cool. He's going to be talking to some teams. Maybe I'll talk to some teams too. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you should. You might as well say, hey, you can hire me as a scout or you can hire me as a tight end, whichever one you want to do.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about both of our number 5s, that being Ozak Charbonnet.
I know I told you before, we might have even talked about it on the show, and I don't know if you remember, but I said it multiple times. I wish Zach Charbonnet came out of the draft last year because he would have been a guaranteed top 3 running back selected last year. Mm-hmm. He had a hell of a campaign his junior year, and he had the build. He had everything he wanted, but he decided to go back for reasons unknown to me. Maybe something came out and I never saw it, but nonetheless, he did go back. Nothing you can change now. That talent is still there. Nothing has changed. I think he has more speed than people give him credit for. I think he's going to run well. It'll be in the 4.4s. I'd be shocked if it's not. The side-to-side agility it's fine for me. It's above average, but it's not anything I consider elite. But when it comes to his strength, when it comes to his break tackle ability, when it comes to, in my opinion, his vision, I think his vision is better than yours, and those other factors that I mentioned are pretty high end for me. I just think he's a very safe, kind of can't miss running back. Not can't miss at like, high end type guy, not like a Connor Bedard in hockey world. He's a can't miss prospect because he's gonna score 1,000 points, but like he's a can't miss because I think he's going to be an alpha running back, and it doesn't matter if he's a starter or if he's part of like a rotational like piece. He's going to be an alpha running back because he's got exactly what you want. In terms of his build, in terms of his ability, I think he is good enough to be number one, and I think he would have had that opportunity. Like last year, if he would have went to Atlanta, if he entered the draft, that would have been borderline my RB1 for Dynasty. So hopefully he gets an opportunity to go kind of be that number one, or at minimum, the top guy in a committee.
Yeah, I like Charbonnet a lot. I don't know if I like him as much as you do with all that,
dude.
With all that being said, but he's a really talented guy. And I think that the one thing I will say that I had a little bit of a gripe with, and it's not even a gripe, was, like I mentioned with Kendre Miller, how he's a little bit more patient, whereas Zach Charbonnet, once he gets that ball in his hands, he's flying out of there. There were a couple of times where he was just too quick and missed the hole. It's not a vision issue. It's just he was trying to get out so quick that as he was about to reach that hole, he stumbled on a lineman's legs, or he hit the side of his lineman and fell backwards. There were a couple of times where I just saw him kind of run into a wall, and the hole was right there. It's just he flew out too quickly. That was one of my gripes with him. But overall, I've got him as a mid-round 2 type of guy. I think that he can very much have a Leonard Fournette type of career where, for 5, 6, 7 years, he's going to be in that starting running back conversation. So I think this guy's really talented, and he's a guy that I'm surely going to be looking for in Dynasty, depending on, the situation that he goes to. But overall, really solid back.
Yeah, and going off of that Leonard Fournette thing, I think that's a kind of great career comp, because I think it'll be the same thing. Like Leonard Fournette's going to get a job again this year. Like, even though he's not going to probably be a go-to guy, he's still going to be on a roster. And as I mentioned, Zach Charbonnet, he's just going to consistently be rostered as long as he's healthy. He's going to have a great type of career as a starter if he gets that opportunity. I really do think. And then regardless, he might go into his 30s as a committee type guy. And if Leonard Fournette was not as high of a draft pick as he was, everyone would say he was a fantastic draft pick, great value, but he ended up going super high. So he's like, all right, that probably wasn't a great pick. But if he went where Zach Charbonnet is going to go, everyone would think it was a hell of a pick and a steal.
All right, Chase, who is your number 6?
My number 6 is, Tank Bigsby.
All right, let's talk about Tank.
Let's talk about Tank. You have him at number 8, correct?
I have him number 10.
Oh, that's right. You're a hater. My bad.
I've got Roshan I got Deuce as my number 8.
Oh, that's right. So Tank, he's got very good measurables. He's at 6 foot. He's above 210. So that's a good combo to have. I think he's got good overall speed. Maybe not anything special, but definitely good overall speed. I think he's got some, solid shiftiness behind the line when it gets an open space. Maybe not as much, but when it comes to maneuvering guys that are kind of coming in, pushing up the line of scrimmage, I think he maneuvers there a little bit better. He's got great break tackle ability. He's very strong. I think he's a better pass catcher than some people might really notice. I think he's useful in the passing game as a blocker as well, too. So really, the concern I can understand people have is going to come down to a bit of an underwhelming college production type thing, and maybe not necessarily super elite one way or the other. But I do think it's kind of similar to what your thoughts were on, I don't remember who the hell it was anymore. Maybe it was, I gotta look at my rankings. I don't know, but I can't remember, whoever you said it was that like you had as just like all around, maybe not like high end, like no high end trait. I think it's a similar type of thing. I do think that day 2 and second round specifically is where he should go. I hope it's to a team with a running back opportunity. I mean, as it is with literally everybody in this draft class. But the reality is there's not going to be everybody in this draft class going to a little bit legitimate RB, starting position. So hopefully Tank can at least get an opportunity being a 1B. I think he would have a ton of success in that role.
Yeah, this is a guy where I've got a round 3 grade on him. I think he's pretty solid overall. I agree with you. Pass block, I think he's really well suited there. However, you mentioned break tackle and catching. I think he's really good at breaking tackles, catching. He's a little underrated. I don't necessarily see him as great in either of those categories, but with a caveat. And I think that you might not agree with this, but I think you'll at least like to hear it from me. I put in all capitals for his notes, so inconsistent, because 20% of his plays, he looks like he could be in line for the RB2 or RB3 in this draft class. He looks so good in 20% of his plays. The other 80%, he just puts his head down and runs into three guys. He doesn't try to make a move. He doesn't try to get away from defenders. He'd rather just put his head down and try to pick up the 3 yards that he might be able to get. And that frustrates me because I see what he can do when he's at the top of his game. There's moments where he looks better than Zach Charbonnet. He looks better than Zach Evans, looks better than Kendre Miller. There's a couple of plays out there where you could argue he looks better than the likes of Jahmyr Gibbs. But I don't see that all the time, and it frustrates me. So I've got him as a third-round guy. I think that if he can find that game and really push it to that next level, be that guy for even 60%, rather than, a whole 100. We're only getting about 20% right now. If we can get it for at least 60%, I think this guy could be just insane. But because we only see it so often, in my opinion, he's my RB10. He's a mid-third round grade. I think he's talented. I just want to see more consistency.
So he'll be drafted above where you have him ranked unless something shocking happens at the combine, I will safely say. But he also might be drafted below where I have him ranked. I think he was probably that running back 7 for 8 for a lot of teams because of that inconsistency, as you mentioned. I do agree. I don't think the number's as big as it is where it's 20 to 80. I think it's more 40, 60. And that's in line with the college production for me. If he was more consistent, if he was on the plus side of that, he would have better numbers. He would have a better average. But it was a little inconsistent. I am such a believer in this talent. I was a big fan of him when I remember watching like high school tape on him, like just seeing some highlights. And I was like, oh, this guy's gonna be awesome in college. And he started to show some real life of being that dude. And it's changed a little bit, underwhelmed a little bit in terms of production, but you can see all the talents there. Just get a good enough RB coach to make sure he can kind of maintain that consistency, and he's going to go off.
All right, let's move on to my number 6, that being Tajay Spears out of Tulane. Did you have him in your top 10? I can't remember.
Yes, I had him at number 8. I want to double check. Yeah, number 8. No, okay. Wait, nope, I lied. Number 9.
Tajay Spears, a big riser right now because what he was able to do at the likes of the Shrine Bowl and just a super talented player. However, not a big market with it being Tulane. However, I think this guy's really good across the board. I mean, speed, I think, is above average. Agility, I think he's up there with some of the shiftier backs in this draft class. Even though he's not the biggest guy at 5'10", 195, I think he's similar to the likes of Deuce Vaughn, where he embraces that contact. Now, he doesn't always win it because he's a little bit smaller. He's not as small as Deuce, but he embraces that contact. I think he's really good when it comes to breaking tackles, when it comes to his receiving ability. I do have a bit of a gripe with his pass block, but I just such a big fan of this kid. He's so slippery. You think that you might have him, and then he's gone. He just slipped out of your hands. So this is a guy that I like a lot.
So you want to hear my first point on him in my notes?
Sure.
I said Barry Sanders light ?
Oh? Don't say that because Graham's going to freak out.
I know he is, but if you go back and watch Barry Sanders' best runs, and then you go watch Tajay Spears' best runs, they're identical. What he does is a shifty runner, is impeccable. You see him, most running backs, you want them only moving forward. Like, you can move forward, you can move sideways a bit, but keep going forward. Don't run back. Don't try to make plays because that's when you lose yards. Not Tajay Spears. He doesn't lose yards. He goes, he's patient. He'll shift back. He sees, kind of waits for the play to come more towards him, finds a hole, and he takes off. He turned so many small plays into big plays because of that. I remember one specifically, it was going to be about a 5-yard loss, turned into a 6-yard gain that I saw. and he dodged at least 6 defenders en route to getting there. It was just incredible. So if he can have that success in that role behind the line of scrimmage, being that mobile, being able to maneuver like that, he's going to be an NFL superstar. That upside is legitimately there. But we don't see a lot of guys have that success at the NFL level because defenders are smarter. Edge rushers are starting to get involved in the pass game more and more. Those guys tend to have more speed. They can get the backfield better. Defensive tackles are getting way more athletic. So we don't see that very, very often because the guys that do try to do that end up losing yards. If he finds a way to make it work, I mean, I think top 3 running back in the league, legitimately. But I got to see him find a way to make that work before I can kind of boost him up a little more.
So with my grade, I have him right there with Zach Evans, Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going to be a mid-second round guy. Where do you have him going? Are you more third round type of guy?
No, I have him as late second, early third, like just kind of right in that range. And again, it's just because we've never seen, or not never, but like we haven't seen it in a while, a guy succeed that well behind the line of scrimmage. So like it concerns me because if he can't make it work, I think he's going to be kind of useless. So I really hope that it does work out for him. But late day 2, early day 3, a team that's willing to let him do those types of things, give him the patience to kind of figure that out, I think it could have a big payoff.
And it's really fun to see, and I'm glad that we got to see Spears really do well in the likes of like the Shrine Bowl and stuff, because this wasn't a guy who was initially on our list. And eventually we hear more about him. He makes the list, and sure enough, he's in both of our top 10s. Similar to a Roschon Johnson. Now, he was always on the list. We're always going to take a peek at him, but he's been getting a lot more hype recently, and he makes our top 10 as well. So guys that aren't necessarily seen as the premier backs coming into the scouting process, really now starting to get some love. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, before we move on to our next player, it's when this time of year, you see a lot of players start rising because of that, because they do well at these bowl games, because they do well at the combine, and because of their athletic ability. One of the positions you really see it happen to work out at is running back. So when these guys become risers later in the process, it don't be like, oh, they're just getting the combine hype, they're getting this extra game film hype, they all this type of junk. It's got a decent tendency to work well with running backs. So just believe it, give them a shot, please, somebody.
All right, next up, Chase, who do you have, and is it number 7 or? Because for me, I've only got one more player to talk about that's actually in my top 10.
So Tajay was your number 6 there, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, I got my number 7. And my number 7 is Chris Rodriguez, who I don't know if you have him ranked in your first 3 rounds, which
he is not.
Makes me a little upset because I think he's like a ton of fun to watch. Is he going to be like that just ultimate dude where like he's going to kind of be a number 1, be given the reins? Probably not, but I think he's going to be one of the premier 1B rotational guys in the league. Like I think so many guys in this class could be, as long as they're given the opportunity. It's the same thing with Chris Rodriguez, because he is well-rounded. He could have some better speed. That's really my only gripe with him. I think he's got fine agility. I think he's awesome when it comes to the strength part of the game, which is, like just his build, his toughness, the breaking tackle ability, pass blocking. I think he's above average. I think he, again, is another type of guy who doesn't get enough credit in the pass catching game. I think that really when it comes to everything, all the factors, his ball carrier vision, his college production, he's just good. He's just good at football.
Chris Rodriguez, I've got as a 4th, 5th round fringe type of guy. I think when it comes to the traits across the board, I think he's pretty average, except for the likes of his strength, his pass block. I love his pass blocking. I think vision's pretty good as well. And I think that we think similarly when it comes to what his value could be at the next level. We just have him graded a little differently, because I put in here that he reminds me a lot of the likes of Jamal Williams or Samaje Perine, the guy that isn't necessarily a starting running back, but he's a fantastic RB2, really good at pass production, a guy who can consistently pick up 4 to 5 yards. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys who can pick up 20-yard gains, but 4 or 5 yards every time he takes a run, I think that's him. I think he could be the premier running back 2 in the league, but I just don't see the upside of running back one potential. And that's why he doesn't make it for me. I've got a bunch of other guys here that I could potentially see making that running back one case. Whereas Chris Rodriguez, I never saw that for him. So that's why he's down in the 4th round for me. But again, he's consistent. He's really good in the pass block game. And I think he could take on a Jamal Williams-like role.
He would thrive in the Jamal Williams role, like 100%. Almost anywhere he goes, he would thrive in that role. And I think he's got that number one running back upside for a team. I really do. It's just, I think if he's a number 2, maybe he's a 1,010 touchdown guy, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, all purpose. And if he's a number 1, I think he can be 1,312 all purpose. I think it's very similar production, whether he's the 1A or 1B. So maybe being in a timeshare will help him. Maybe, being in a 50-50 with another talented back will help him. Maybe him even getting the 60-40 would help. But I think it's another guy who, barring going to a bad situation, should be a safe type of player for the NFL.
And so with Chris Rodriguez not being in my 13 players that I believe are worth a day 1 or day 2 grade, I'm excited to see which player of mine that you don't have a day 1 or day 2 grade on. And we'll talk about that here when we finish our rankings. But my very last running back on my list, because Roschon Johnson's my 7, Deuce Vaughn's my 8, Tank Bigsby's my 10. So the only one I have left is at number 9, Israel Abanikanda out of Pittsburgh. This is a super fun player. I didn't really expect much. I knew a lot of people were secretly high on him, but I'm surprised at how much I liked him. 5'11", 215. I think he's got really nice speed for the size that he does carry. I think agility is there. I think the strength could be a touch better, but isn't bad by any means. He was breaking tackles a lot, and once he broke a couple of tackles, he was gone. This was a guy that could really move, really get to that next level. Was excited about that. I thought his vision was great. Now, I wasn't a big fan of his pass block when it comes to his catching ability, too. I was a little bit unsure of that, but I think he's a very well-rounded runner who can put his head down and make a man miss. So this is a guy that I think could be that running back one type of potential, whereas, like we just mentioned with Rodriguez, I don't see that ceiling for him. I see that ceiling with Abanikanda.
Yeah, I've got him late day 2, top half of day 3, like top half of like round 4. So he is my running back 12 on this, and it's definitely not a slight by any means. I got him in one of my C2C leagues. He was on my college team, so he'll be coming over to my pro roster, and I'm super excited because I do believe in his talent. I think that he can be very good. It's just speed wasn't overwhelming for me. The agility wasn't overwhelming for me. I thought he could have been a little bit stronger, but I did think he was able to evade break tackles better than I expected. He was willing to block, and he had good college production. So that kind of mix of things, on top of what I thought his patience was behind the line of scrimmage, I think he can be like a very nice piece in a backfield, but I just don't think he'll ever be that guy.
Ooh, that's where you're wrong, my friend. But
I think he's going to be. I think he can be a good rotation piece. I don't see like an RB1 upside is what I'm trying to say.
But you see it in Rodriguez.
I do see it in Chris Rodriguez Jr.
Interesting.
He is great.
Anyone watching right now, go watch Abanikanda, go watch Rodriguez, and let us know down in the comments. What do you think? Do either of these guys? Maybe you think neither of these guys are good running backs at all. Let us know down in the comments. But Chase, you've got one remaining running back in your top 10. And I think that's at the 10 position, is it not?
It is at the 10 position. So, Sean Tucker, I expected more out of. I still think he's worthy of a day 2 pick. And I said this, I don't remember if I said it on the show or not, but when you told me this type of thing, I guessed over the phone or over text. So why do you hate Sean Tucker so much? Were you like, shit, he knows?
I wasn't like, shit, he knows. I was just like, I'm not going to just expose it, but yeah, I thought I would love him a lot more. Just not the case. Yeah,
it sucks. A Syracuse running back is a weird thing because you don't see a ton of them at the NFL level. I think he had good college success, but when it comes to everything else, his height to weight ratio, his speed, his agility, his strength, his break tackle, his catching ability, all of that is just like, yeah, he has it, but is it like special? Is it like even closer to high end, or is it more just like, yeah, solid? I think it's more like that. But I think he doesn't have a flaw in his game, which is what really helps him. I think he's also a very good pass blocker compared to a lot of this class too. That's the one thing I have going. Maybe he's better adding 20 pounds, becoming a fullback. I don't know, but I think it's just nothing elite, nothing necessarily high end either, but also no hole in his game.
Yeah, he's my RB12. Actually tied for the RB12 spot with the guy I have listed as number 13. Both of these guys, if they're 1 point less, 1 decimal point less, they're in day 3 for me. They just snuck into day 2. I think this is a guy where I looked at his frame coming into the year, and I looked at a couple of his runs from last season, and I thought that this was going to be a little bit more physical of a runner. He's not that physical. I think he's better when it comes to, being elusive or helping out in the pass game. And just overall, similar to what you said, like, he's not great anywhere. I just don't love him as much as I thought I would. Solid in the pass game. His strength is not impressive. That's what I put down.
So really the only way that I would spend like a dynasty pick on him. So put this in terms of, people that might not watch the film, but play fantasy football, maybe even play dynasty. I don't even know if I draft him as my RB10 in dynasty. I might, like, in even just this class, not just an RB10, in general, but in this class, I probably just flat out pass unless he goes to a situation and they say, yeah, we're giving him 350 touches. Be ready. Then they're like, okay, I guess I'll take a shot on that. But really, almost any situation, I'm just like, I don't know. I'll just let someone else take him.
So in the past 3 weeks, I have done 5 rookie mock drafts. And for those of you that don't know, I have 12 of 12 first round picks.
You said it earlier in the show. Stop bragging.
And of the 4 of 5 rookie mock drafts I've done in the last 3 weeks, Sean Tucker was one of those top 12 picks. The only one he wasn't was after I watched film. I am not taking him in my top 12. Like, unless he goes like first round and a team's going to give him everything, which won't happen, but he's just not there anymore, in my opinion. I wanted so much more out of him.
Can I add something to that first round thing?
Sure.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
Doesn't always matter.
Yeah.
That's really all my point is on that one.
I mean, I've always said in Dynasty, you go for the talent over the position. And that's one thing that I fell into last year. I took the likes of, who is it now? I think it was like a running back late. I don't even remember. But I took him over, it was James Cook. I took James Cook over George Pickens and over Dameon Pierce. And I liked Pickens and Pierce better than Cook as prospects. And sure enough, Cook's not a bad player. He's no longer on my team anymore either, though. So I'm really going value over position now, and it's going to be great because now I've got the grading system installed, and I know what guys I want.
Yeah, I'm happy to develop the grading system because mine, it's work. There's always misses, and generally there's more misses than hits. But I feel like my guys that I've been like darlings fans on how my grades have worked out pretty well over the last few years since I developed this. So I'm happy you got there so you can kind of compare yours and see how it works out. But you'll notice it makes it a lot easier for you to kind of understand instead of just be like, yeah, this guy's good. I'll put him here instead of just, like you get an actual like a quantitative number to kind of compare where they should go. It just makes things like so much easier.
All right, Chase, go over your top 10 one more time. I'll go over mine, and then we'll talk about those 3 players on the outside looking in very briefly. I know we've probably mentioned a couple of them already, so top 10.
Bijan Robinson at 1, Jahmyr Gibbs at 2, Roschon Johnson at 3, Deuce Vaughn at 4, Zach Charbonnet at 5, Tank Bigsby at 6, Chris Rodriguez at 7, Zach Evans at 8, Tyjae Spears at 9, Sean Tucker at 10.
And I've got Bijan Robinson 1, Jahmyr Gibbs 2, Kendre Miller 3, Zach Evans 4, Zach Charbonnet 5, Tajay Spears 6, Roshan Johnson 7, Deuce Vaughn 8, Israel Abanikanda 9, and Tank Bigsby 10. So I have to assume, actually, no, you said that Kendre Miller was fringe, so he might be in day 3 for you. So talk about the 3 guys that you have as day 2 guys.
So I mentioned one when we talked about Izzy. I mentioned he was in there, so I do have him as a guy that I would think is worthy of a second round pick. If he goes in the third, then or the third, worthy of the third round pick. If he goes in the fourth, then I think that's also fair too. The guy I have at number 11, surprisingly enough, I kind of didn't expect it, and maybe I don't trust it if I go back and watch more because I really didn't expect it. Is Eric Gray. I thought he was just well balanced as a runner. I thought he was a violent runner, which I like seeing that too. But when it comes to like just being a lead in something, again, other than his violence, I don't think it's there. But I think he has upside to be a number 1 back. I would also assume he's just going to be a better committee back though. So someone taking him in the 4th round, 5th round, I think it's perfectly fine too. I kind of have him, closer to the edge. Like I have him as a late day 2 pick instead of like just a flat out day 2 pick. And then outside of that, Chase Brown, another guy that I have from my college team going over to my NFL team. I liked him a lot this year. I thought he had a very strong, college football season. His numbers back that up too. He's one of my few guys that got a perfect production grade. 3 or 4 of them I did in total. And he's just, my opinion, patient, good speed, strong college production, great ball carrier vision and patience. I think that's among the best in the class. But his frame, like it's weird to me. I've seen guys with that type of frame not really be able to hold up because he's got height and weight, but he looks small to me for some reason. I don't know why. It just appeared that way to me. Like I don't know if that's truly his height and weight. I think he might come in smaller and lighter at the combine, and it might be a little underwhelming, but I can see why someone might have him in their top 10 and have him as an earlier day 2 pick. I have him as a late day 2, early day 3.
Yeah, Chase Brown, he's that first running back outside of day 2 for me. I even have him over your boy Chris Rodriguez. But you said Eric Gray day 2?
Yeah, I don't know why. It just kind of happened.
Don't doubt yourself, brother, because I do too. I was a big fan of Eric Gray as well. I've got him same rating as Sean Tucker, where he's really that fringe guy between 3rd round and 4th round. I did like him, though, enough to be a day 2 grade. And the only other guy that has not been mentioned that was in my top 13 is Devon Achane. I think this is a guy who, coming into his tape, I was not excited whatsoever. I thought, no shot in hell. I'm actually thinking this guy's going to be a good player. All he is speed. But I was a little bit wrong on that. I put in my notes, very polarizing, insane speed and agility. Everywhere else just feels average. Right team, and he could be insane. And the one player I thought of, now this guy didn't have the longest career at very high top end, but he was an absolute blazer when he was with Tennessee, that being CJ2K. I think that Achane has that potential where if he goes to the right system, I don't know if he's a RB1. There's a reason that I have him very low in the 3rd round, but with the speed that he possesses, the agility and shiftiness that he possesses, I think if he goes to the right system, someone will be able to make him work.
Yeah, I've got him like later, day 3, someone that I'd rather draft other players like 6, late 5th, early 6th. That's fine. But really, it just kind of seems like one of these gimmicky type of running backs. Like look at Kenny Nwangwu from last year. He went in the 4th round. Someone that is really? He went in the 4th round? And it was all on the premise of speed. I think it's the same type of thing. He's going to get overdrafted because of his speed, which is, it's very good. But I think he's more in line to be, give him 50 carries on the year. Like maybe he can break off 1 or 2, but he'll be just much better off as a returner, I think. It's just everything else. It's just like, I don't see this being a quality running back in the NFL.
All right, last but not least, who is your lowest rated running back that you graded?
I graded 18. It's Devon Achane.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because there's a couple guys that like I've watched before and I didn't even bother grading right now because I knew where they would be. So there's going to be guys lower than him. So I just want to say that. But like, so some of the guys that I didn't watch, like Travis Dye, Kenny McIntosh, Marshawn Lloyd, they were just guys that I've seen before, and I kind of already know they're going to be lower than that. So I just didn't even bother right now.
Yeah, I graded 21. My lowest was Mayan Williams out of Ohio State. But in the notes, I put Doug Martin. Could Mayan Williams be Doug Martin? I mean, Doug Martin didn't have a very long career, but Mayan Williams, a little bit smaller guy, but he's got that straight line, decent speed and ability to hit people. But he's a day 6, day 7 type of guy for me. He's really low.
Day 6, day 7, man. He's
yeah.
He's going in the 32nd round of the NFL draft.
You get it.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the show. I want to thank you so much for coming out and giving it a listen. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. If you are listening on YouTube, if you could please give us a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to turn on notifications. Let us know what you think about the top 10 running backs in this upcoming draft class. Whether you want to bash on our list or you want to give your own list, please let us know down below. I would love to see your list. If you're listening on a podcast platform, if you could please give us a follow and a 5-star rating, I would absolutely love you for it. We got wide receivers next. It's going to be a great time. Thanks so much for coming by. And as always, we're not professionals.